To go get yourself a Bondominium. Several of our listeners have. And we appreciate that because that keeps our partnership hot and heavy with those guys and helps us do cool things like have John Whittle on the show. He's expensive. And all that, and allows me to tell my Vegas stories and all that good stuff. I'm going to quote Mark here because I don't want to type and bother your poor ears. But apparently the Gamecock men are number 20 in the rankings. I thought they were falling out. So, yeah. Oh, ye of little faith, JC Shurburtt sitting here, and all that good stuff. Mark talks about, speaking of the Spear, he says they have issues getting big name performers because of I don't know why. Maybe it's because I don't think I'm the first person that fell, because normally you fall and luckily I didn't hit anybody. I landed between people. I didn't hurt anybody. I didn't even break a bone. I'm big boned. I know. I no longer just use that as an excuse for being overweight. I am definitely big bone because I didn't break any bones. My phone shattered. I had a little bruise and a bruise on my side. I didn't hit anybody, right? But normally, if you fall at a concert, you're getting tossed because they're like, you're intoxicated. And I can't say that I did not have anything to drink. I'm just saying that's not why I fell. I got extremely disoriented, and most normal people would too. And I guarantee you the guy didn't move his foot when I was trying to go to the bathroom. And so I think maybe that's it. I think there's some liability there because it is very dramatic. The lights and how it's set up, and you get motion sickness. It's like one of those rides at Disney where it's like, you know. So anyway, what?
Well, welcome in, John.
Welcome in, John.
Yeah, I am going to have to double my appearance fee, I think.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Maybe I'll sue the Spear. I'll sue the Spear for embarrassment.
The Spear.
Nah, yeah. Somebody says when they're in November and a lady had a few too many and face planted on the stairs. Yeah, I didn't. I handled the stairs like a champion, and they have this big, long ass. Like it's probably a football field or two escalator to get to the top of this thing. Straight up, like if you fell off this escalator, you're dead. I handled that like a champion, up and down. It's just, I don't know. Anyway, John,
that's huge. That's huge that you were able to navigate an escalator. I mean, that's incredible. Like you should have a shirt made. I successfully rode an escalator both up and down.
Actually, this is the shirt that I got for my experience in Vegas.
Trophy husband. I like that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. But anyway, beside the point, John, big weekend at the Ball Yard. Yesterday, I know it's Miami of Ohio, but no hitters don't happen every day. Roman Kimball, very, very encouraging. Ty Good, very, very encouraging. Your takeaways from the weekend on the diamond.
Yeah, I mean, it had been since 2013 since Carolina had one. In 1975 was the time before that. So yeah, they don't happen very often. And, I know it was 7 innings. I know it was Miami of Ohio, but it's still a nice little feather in the cap. And, a little interesting point is that one in 1979, there was actually a no-hitter the day before as well. But yeah, it doesn't happen often. Really cool to see. I didn't really even realize what was going on until about the 6th inning. In that game yesterday, but cool to go through. Roman was awesome. He was on a pitch count of they didn't want him going over 50. He threw 40. No sense in sending him back out there for another inning. Ty Good came in and pitched a couple. Tyler Pitzer, Parker Marlott, Tyler Dean. All 5 of those guys are new guys to this pitching staff. So yeah, I mean, very, very encouraging, and the pitching in general overall was very encouraging. I thought Eli Jones did exactly what he needed to do on Friday in terms of coming out and setting the tone. And Dylan Eskew started Saturday, and he walked 4 of the first 7 guys. And as Kingston said, and I agree. He's got a lot of movement on his fastball, and sometimes it takes a minute to kind of hone in on exactly where you need to release it and how it's going to move on that day. And, it may have taken Dylan a little bit long to get that kind of locked in. But he retired the last 10 guys he faced. It would have been 12, but there was an error mixed in there. But retired the last 10 guys he faced, and I thought had a very productive day. Chris Veach came in a tight spot, and on Friday with the bases loaded and no outs, and came in and didn't give up a run. I mean, it was very, very good weekend for the pitching staff, I thought. And, offensively, maybe you want some of the numbers to be a little bit better, but, when a team walks as many guys as Miami of Ohio did, it's hard to hit. I mean, you're getting on base, but it's hard to hit. Like there's obviously not a whole lot out there to put bat on ball on. Like they're throwing balls out of the zone and you don't know where it's going. So, that sometimes makes it a little more difficult. So not necessarily disappointed in what things look like offensively, but I thought it was a really good weekend for the pitching staff.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest question coming in. I guess if there were one, right? I mean, what's pitching staff going to look like? Who's your Friday guy? And I think you coined it, Whittle. There's all kind of Saturday guys, but you're just trying to find that one dominant performance, or one dominant arm to come in on a Friday. But you feel like we saw enough outside of even, say, the three starters to start feeling like you're a bit more confident for, having a tough series and having to dip into the bullpen?
Yeah, I mean, I think you feel good about what you saw in the first weekend. And, whether South Carolina gave up, 15 runs or 5 runs, like I would say probably about the same thing. Like it's your opening weekend. And, it's good to see guys out there and see what they look like, out in front of the crowd and how they handle things. And, just see them against a different opponent and how they execute pitches. And you start to learn a little bit that opening weekend. I mean, Ty Good, we mentioned him earlier. He was great on Sunday, backing up Roman. He was pretty good in the preseason as things were getting closer. He was terrible in the fall, but knowing some guys down at College of Charleston and what they've said about Ty. They said, when the lights come on, that's when Ty gets going. And we saw a little bit of that. Like that was as good as he's been since he's been here in August, and by far better than what he was at any point in the fall. Because, the lights are on now and people are watching him. And I'm not throwing this kid under the bus because I think he's going to be great. But Eddie Copper, he was probably South Carolina's best pitcher the 3 weeks coming into the season. And, he had a tough go of it. I mean, he looked a little bit nervous out there, but, he hadn't pitched in a situation like that before. I don't think that's going to be what he is. I'm sure that's not going to be what he is. He's too good for him to be that guy that we saw in that first appearance. So, but you get a feel for people on that opening weekend, especially on the pitching staff. And I think we learned a little bit about some of those guys, and the next few weeks we'll learn a little bit more, and that's how things sort out. Before the start of SEC play, you want to feel pretty good going into Clemson because that series is so important to everybody. But you really want to. You'll feel like what you got and where the pieces need to kind of fall when you go into SEC play.
Eddie Copper, a true freshman from Pennsylvania, 6'2", 200. 6'2", 210 from Ivyland, Pennsylvania, P27 Academy. Wasn't a guy I'd read up a whole lot on, but certainly, got the first crack out of the bullpen. So he's obviously had some good things. And yeah, SQ kind of settled in, and I think there's a lot to be said about that. I want to ask you specifically about Garrett Gainey, though. A lot of Gamecock fans, I mean, he's a lefty. A lot of Gamecock fans look at it and goes, man, that could be a guy that factors into the closer situation because he's got really good stuff just from where we sit. What do you think? Yeah, I mean,
94-mile-an-hour lefty, very emotional guy on the mound, as we saw after the game, and what he did. And I think that'll probably be, I don't want to say scaled back. I think it'll be redirected a little bit more than scaled back. But yeah, he's Here's what the deal is with Gainey. I think, and I think this is how we'll see it evolve. Chris Veach is really, really good, and Chris Veach can also throw more than one inning. So there's going to be times where he goes out there and throws 2 and 3 innings. He might have to come in a 6th inning like he did the other day to bail somebody out. And, he might go the rest of that game. Now, this was his first appearance. He didn't pitch in the fall. Like, he's still building his arm back up. So, they threw him 2 innings. But there could be a time where he finishes out that game and isn't available the next day or even for 2 days, depending on how many pitches he throws. But, with Veach developing the curveball like he has, he's more apt to be able to go multiple innings and deeper into a game. So, Garrett Gainey might be kind of a backup closer type of guy. Garrett's more of a 1-inning type of guy. You might be able to throw him out there for a second every once in a while, but, he's probably a 1-inning type of guy because of what you saw. Like, he's very emotional. He's very jacked up. He gets the adrenaline going. So if you do that in the 8th and then go sit down and watch the game for a little while and then come back in the 9th, are you going to have that same type of emotional burst that he has? Maybe we'll see. But I think he's probably a 1-inning closer. So, I think depending on how you use Veach and what's going on with Gainey at that time, I think you could see him in that type of 9th inning role from time to time too.
Gave guys at the plate, only 2 home runs, both by Ethan Petrie, which I thought was good. I mean, you want him to continue to hit the long ball, obviously, like he did last season. But, some guys, Whittle, that you guys reported very well out of fall and spring that were coming on, they actually played really well. Dylan Brewer, had 3 hits, 5 RBIs. Blake Jackson at the leadoff spot. Boy, you really got to like what he brings to the table. He had 5 RBIs. On the weekend, Cole Messina had 3 RBIs without going yard. Will Tippett, by all accounts, looks better at the plate. This Gavin Casas Tyler Causey battle is going to be interesting. Tyler Causey was very impressive. Just a lot of those guys that you told us were going to be pretty good. They had pretty good weekends.
Yeah. I mean, most of them did have pretty good weekends, and that's solid. Again, just kind of like the pitching staff. I mean, you want to see a little bit more. 3-game sample size isn't great because you can look through and pick through some of the stats and see some guys who probably weren't, as good as what you hoped on opening weekend. But, it's still just one weekend for those guys too, and limited number of at-bats. But, you didn't see a whole lot of guys chasing out of the zone, which is something that Monty preaches, really, really strongly is don't chase. If you think it's even 2 strikes, if it's borderline, he wants you taken. And that's just kind of their philosophy on it. And, you see that occasionally, but what it does, you see a strike 3 looking called occasionally, but, you eliminate a lot of chasing when you have that approach. So, you didn't see a whole heck of a lot of that this weekend. I think Ethan Petrie may have gotten a little bit too aggressive from time to time, especially on Sunday. I think he had some good at bats on Friday and certainly on Saturday with a couple of home runs. I think he was really wanting to get into the act on Sunday and maybe swung at some pitches that he would rather have back. But overall a good weekend too, offensively for the guys. And I think this coming weekend will be another challenge, but, 2 more games, before the weekend, obviously playing Winthrop and Queens on Tuesday and Wednesday.
They didn't play Queens in a 3-game set last year, but they played them last year. Obviously, they play Winthrop every year. Anything of note on these 2 teams coming up this week? Winthrop can be a tough out sometimes. Queens, I don't know enough about them. So tell us about these 2.
Well, I'll be honest. I haven't really looked at either one of them either. It's the sample size is a little bit small still, and you know, I'm still wrapping up this past week, and we'll get to tomorrow at some point. But
Gotcha.
yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like when you're South Carolina, you know, you're expected to go out and play well against these teams early in the season because they're not going to have full scouting reports and exactly what these guys are like either. So, you know, you just go out there and see ball, hit ball, I guess.
Got two basketball schools on the weekends coming up, Belmont and Longwood too. They're in those teams get to the NCAA tournament in basketball. I know Belmont does. They're a big Nashville team, so that should be interesting. And then Clemson, of course, is squeezed in there somewhere, I think. Yeah, so yeah, you're right. Really good weekend and all that. Can you hold through a break and we can talk basketball?
Sure. Are they playing it in the Sphere or what?
The basketball game?
Yeah.
Could you imagine shooting a free throw in the Sphere?
No, that would be nuts. Yeah.
I'd fall down again.
Sure, but sure. We'll hold on to a break.
Hey, I'll tell y'all a quick story. So no phone, right?
Oh, I shouldn't have said it, Phil. I shouldn't have said it.
That's all right. You're good. You're good.
I didn't make contact with the outside world until about it's a Monday. We were sitting at the airport, and I was like, you know, honey, we should probably text Whittle at least. And tell him to tell some people that I don't have their numbers memorized. And she has Whittle's number. So she texts Whittle, and Whittle goes, I am so shocked JC lost his phone or his wallet or his keys or anything at all. That really takes me aback. So there you go. That was, those that know me well, that was not a surprise at all. So anyway, this is Inside the Gamecocks, the show we were built by the Barndo Company right here. In the Signarama Studios. Also, shout out to Love Chevrolet, another one of our sponsors, along with Salsaritas, who fed Matt Anderson at the basketball game this weekend and fed our crew along with D's Wings for the opening day extravaganza on Friday. We'll be back after these messages. ITG roll Inside the Gamecocks, the show. I am JC Shurburtt. That's John Whittle, and that's Phil Mullinax. JB had to be off today. We certainly miss him when he's not here, but we have a lot of fun in his absence. It hadn't been quite off the rails like it normally is when he's not here, but it's been enough. John, really tough. I mean, tough is the best way I can describe the loss to LSU in men's basketball. You have a 16-point lead, a raucous crowd, a chance to get up off the mat. You end up letting them come all the way back. Then you sink two clutch threes with Cooper and Mack at the end to supposedly win the game, have a jump ball in the corner and end up losing the game on two free throws. Tough one. Your thoughts. It only moved them down to 20th in the polls. I think they're still on the 6th line for the tournament, but you look at what's up ahead. That one's hard to swallow.
Yeah. And excuse me, that game, it was just stupid stuff. I mean, at the end of the day, it was just stupid stuff, stupid mistakes, just dumb errors. And that's not what that's not what this team has been about at all this year. It's been, steady. It's been take a punch, give a punch. They've made the right moves. So that's what was so surprising about this past Saturday was just some of the mistakes that were made that were just so silly. And that's what makes it so, that's just what makes it so disappointing. Cause there are so many difficult games here at the end. You felt like you really needed to get that one, bounce back from the 40-point loss against Auburn, which Auburn Arena, Neville Arena is incredible. By the way, I love going there. Even it was cool to see that place rocking in person again for the first time in a while. But yeah, that LSU game was just difficult to swallow, especially given what you have coming up here over the next few weeks.
Yeah, I think you got a critical kind of stretch here coming up in the next 3 games. I mean, I know you only got 5 to finish the regular season, but we were talking to Mike earlier. What do you think? Do you think that this week off that they have is coming in at a timely spot for this team to kind of just push reset and get back to what it was they kind of opened the season about?
Yeah, I don't know what Mike said earlier, but I would think that this is probably a good time to get a midweek off and just like you said, kind of reset and address some things and kind of get back to who you were. Because while the LSU game, you can point to so many different instances of mistakes and dumb plays. You know, it feels like they've been popping up a little bit more often here and there. So, you know, it might just be time to kind of reset a little bit and you know, see just kind of recalibrate and get back into the lab as they like to say, and get back going again.
Hey, get back to who you are. Yeah, I mean, first half against Vandy was a little iffy. Second half against Ole Miss a little iffy. You know, not that that's iffy. Look, iffy halves are going to happen in this league no matter what. Everybody's good. And Ole Miss and A&M at their places are pretty good. I'll say this about Ole Miss. They tend to look like a team that beats the teams they should and then loses the teams they shouldn't. Or, I mean, sorry, beats the teams they should and then loses to who they should. Carolina won out there last year. If that means anything. And then A&M, every big name team on their schedule, they show up and play well. And then the little guys, they don't necessarily play well and got the bejesus beaten out of them by Alabama this past weekend. And then Florida's the hottest team in the league. I think John, you got to hope they cool off by the time they come to Columbia.
Yeah. And I mean, the teams are going to look different over the next, you know, couple of weeks, I'm sure. You know, Ole Miss played a slobber knocker of a game the other day with Vandy, right? Or excuse me, Missouri. Missouri was up, I think it was 10 on them with about, you know, 10 or 12 minutes left in that game. And then Ole Miss made a run and, you know, it ended up being, I think, a 3-point game. So, you know, it's, I mean, if South Carolina gets back to playing like it was a couple of weeks ago, like all these games are winnable. But, you know, they're playing against such good competition. They're all pretty losable as well. So I think Ken Pom actually has South Carolina going 1-4 over these next 5 games with Florida being the only win. And, you know, Ken Pom doesn't like the Gamecocks as much as some other things do. So, you know, it is what it is. I think the ESPN, whatever they call it, BPI maybe, I think they've got South Carolina losing the last 5. So, you know, South Carolina's going to have to do better than that. I know that much. So, but yeah, tough road to hoe coming up, and some guys need to play a little bit better than they have, and got to get Michi, you know, healthy. I haven't heard anything just yet, apart from, you know, what Lamont Paris said after the game, and as far as concussion protocol goes. But, you know, it's certainly going to be a challenge these next couple of weeks.
Do you think Talon Cooper's played a little off the last 3 games?
Yes. Yeah. And I said that on our friends at the Gamecock Basketball Only podcast last night. You know, they do a nice job covering basketball. And, you know, that's what I said last night. It doesn't feel like Talon has played quite as well, and that's okay. I mean, basketball's a game of runs, and you know what? That's kind of the way players are too. You know, sometimes you're going to be a little bit up, and sometimes you're going to be a little bit down. And when somebody's down, you got to pick them up a little bit. And you know, maybe Michi would have been that guy yesterday if he'd have been in the game the last 6, 7, 8 minutes or however long it was. But yeah, I don't think he's been quite as crisp. Maybe here lately as he was when the Gamecocks were playing really well. And, you know, I've said from kind of the beginning of the season, like, he's the MVP. Even when Michi was going off and doing everything he was doing, like, Talon's been the MVP for most of the year. He's the straw that stirs the drink, really, on both ends of the court, not just from an offensive standpoint and running the offense and assists and knocking down a big shot every once in a while. I mean, he starts it on the defensive end too. And, you know, I don't think he's playing poorly. I just don't think he's playing quite as well. And, you know, I think that's had a little bit of an effect overall. And, you know, I think he'll probably get it back in gear as most veterans do.
I think maybe, as weird as it sounds, even though they lost the game, him drilling that 3-pointer that was probably the game winner, at the time in a pressure situation may get him going. He hadn't shot well. His assists since Vandy are down, and his scoring. I mean, from Arkansas all the way, like the whole win streak up until Vanderbilt, he had double-figure scoring each and every night, and his assist numbers were off the chart. No assist at Auburn, only 3 against LSU, and I think they did miss Michi a little bit down the stretch, even though Michi did not score in the game. Keep in mind, Michi's been a heck of a distributor of the basketball during this time where, I don't know. I think Talon needs to play better. They need to get Michi back on track, either producing, whether that's scoring or distributing the ball. Josh Gray looks like he's snapped backward a little bit, needs to get back. There's a lot of individual guys, but it's a long basketball season, guys, and I'll point this out and see what you think about it, Whittle. Okay, so the team that made the tournament in 2004, Dave's only NCAA tournament team, down the stretch, they were 3-7. The Final Four team was 3-6 down the stretch. So I don't think they're out of the tournament right now. I think the flashing red lights will come if you lose out, right? And that's going to be as hard as it will be to win out. It's going to be hard to lose out too, I think. But you've seen some panic around there. Do you think the panic is justified?
Panic in Gamecock land?
No.
I've never heard of such. But I guess it probably goes back to what people thought of this team going into the season, and for a lot of folks. And this team wasn't supposed to be what this is, and they can't really reconcile the fact that maybe the team is pretty good. And to me, like, this hasn't been a fluky season for South Carolina. There's been one fluky win that I can think of, and there have been a lot of wins where you just go out there and play your style of ball and take care of business. That win at Missouri earlier this year near the start of SEC play was kind of fluky. You had Josh Gray step up and make those clutch free throws there at the end, and Jacoby Wright making the game-winning shot. Like, that was a game where you didn't play well, that you feel like you stole one a little bit, but the rest you've just gone out and won. Like, it hadn't been a fluky season for South Carolina to get where they are. They've been playing pretty damn good. So I think, we know that kind of ball is still in there, and I think it'll come back again at some point, despite what these last couple of games have been. And y'all rattled off a couple of guys who haven't been playing well, and I think that's certainly true. I don't think very many. I don't know if anybody had a great game on Saturday. Even Colin Murray Boyles, who's been on fire here lately, missed probably 4 or 5 layups that he was scratching his head over later in the day, and that would make a big difference there. It's just, but I think these guys get it back in order at some point.
All right, John. Well, hopefully you have a good week at the ball yard. Or are you heading to Oxford on Saturday? Is that on your list of or somebody else? Or
yeah, that's on the list of travels this week. I'll have to head out there on Friday sometime and hang out there in Oxford a little bit. And I think the Rebels, who split with Hawaii over the weekend, they went out on a non-conference baseball trip to Hawaii to play 4 games this past weekend. Went 2-2. Yeah, they come back home this coming weekend and play at noon on Saturday. So maybe I'll catch a few innings of the Rebs on Saturday before heading over. It's not still the Tad, is it? No, it's not.
No, the Tad is at Mississippi's. No, that's the Hump. The Tad was the Tad. Is it the Tad? I thought it's the Pavilion now.
Yeah, I think it's the Pavilion now. I think the Tad was their old arena.
Yeah.
I think the new arena is the Pavilion. Yeah, but that's another beautiful arena. That's another beautiful arena that I like to go to. So look forward. Last time I was there, I'll do a JC kind of tangent. Last time I was in Oxford, they were giving away Morgan Freeman bobblehead dolls. So I have a Morgan Freeman Ole Miss bobblehead. And if you pull them up on eBay, they're going for like, or they were about a year ago, they were going for about $225 to $5. And
that's amazing.
Yeah, I was like, you know what? I'm going to sell this. And I was like, I'm not wishing death on Morgan Freeman, but he's old. Like, he's lived a great life. Maybe it quadruples in value at that point. So but I've got the Ole Miss Morgan Freeman bobblehead doll in my sports room in my office, and it sits there and nods at me and whatnot. So we got that from my last trip out there. Who knows what I'll come back with this time?
And that was the day John Whittle wished death on me.
That's right. That's right. That's the tweet. Whittle wishes death on Morgan Freeman in order.
And I just decided I was just going to
gain value.
It makes me so happy when he makes an appearance in movies. Like that voice, the voice is just iconic. And,
it is beautiful. It is.
It is, and he still goes to games. Like I forget.
He was at the Auburn game. There was news. An Auburn player swatted his hand out of the way because he was just a fan. And he looked back. He was like, "Oh my God, it's Morgan Freeman!" And he shook his hands. "I'm sorry, sir. I'm a big fan of your movies."
I couldn't remember which game it was, but I knew he was there right at courtside. So
he looks great. Looks great. And then moved back home. He's back home, pulling for the Rebels. I mean, he's a big Ole Miss supporter. So that's awesome to see. Maybe you'll run into him and get a picture with him or something.
I can get him to sign my bobblehead.
Your bobblehead.
Yeah,
that's right. It's gonna go up and
double in value.
That's awesome, dude. All right. John Whittle on all things joins us every Monday from thebigspur.com. You can check him out there. John, we really appreciate it, bud. You have a great week, and we'll holla at you next Monday.
Absolutely. Appreciate you guys.